All right, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, welcome to the new semester, to the new year and the new semester. We're happy to have you here. And welcome to today's session, Teaching in the Online Environment. I'm your facilitator for this particular session. And I can assure you, well, hopefully, it's going to be a very hands-on, engaging, and hopefully a very interesting and informative session as well. I see we have quite a number of participants here. So I welcome all of you colleagues. We also have our CTL team here as well. And I say team very much intentionally. Mr. Garcia, Mark Garcia. We also have Mr. Duku, Randy Duku, with us. And yeah, so we're gonna have quite an yes, Mark. So we're gonna have quite a good time this afternoon. And we're gonna learn a lot, hopefully, that we learn a lot of things that could help you in teaching in the online environment, whether it's, and I want to extend it even, or expand it even to the blended context. So online meaning, in this case, the online environment, whether it's in a blended context or 100% online. All right, and we'll get in, as we go further, we'll get into detail, further details on what we mean by online, what we mean by blended, what it means in the context of the UWI, and that sort of thing. All right, so anybody who knows me knows that I like to have a bit of an activity to start with. All right, so in the chat, I just posted some links for you, and you're gonna click on the link, and it's gonna take you to a poll. All right. And that poll is going to function as our icebreaker. Don't worry, it's not an exam. It's it's just to get some general feedback on what your experience has been. Now, we know that we have engaged in teaching in online and online or blended instruction. I would say at least within the past 2 or 3 years during the pandemic and so on. So it's taking into account the following questions in this poll. It's taking into account your experience, what it was like for you in teaching in the online environment pre-COVID and during the pandemic and so on. And even now, where we may or may not be in a sort of endemic phase. So right off the bat, let me just put this in here. So right off the bat, it allows us to really get some insight before we go even further. All right. So let's get straight into it. Just had some technical difficulties there. Okay, so how has your technology use changed between, well, I guess the pandemic and now? All right, so basically, has it changed? And 100% said yes. And I guess hence the reason for this particular session, right? That you are in attendance here. So that's good, that's good. What technology tools have you used in your teaching practice or educational context prior to the pandemic? Many of you said laptops, associated accessories, BBC, Zoom, webcams, MOODLE, Teams, Microsoft Teams, and now trying to learn Canva. Okay, Canva is a new element, well, not a new, but an LMS, learning management system. Projectors, yes. Continue, keep your responses coming. Okay. Laptops, MOODLE, nice. And I also want to welcome some of the, I see we have some colleagues from the UWI-ROYTEC, as far as I can see. but I guess it's one UE family, so that's perfectly fine. Edmodo, laptop, Zoom. Okay, good, good, good. So for those of you who are colleagues from ROYTEC, UWI-ROYTEC, welcome as well. PowerPoint, WordPress, YouTube, right? Poll everywhere, BBC, Google Suite, MOODLE, PowerPoint. Okay, good. Very good. Very good. So these are some of the general technologies, whether it's hardware or software. Hardware meaning like devices, your laptop, your computer, your phones even, and software meaning different applications and the like. All right. Right. So we still have some responses coming in. Zoom. Okay, good. You're most welcome, Genevieve. Happy to have you here. All right. So moving further, and hopefully it's beneficial to you as well. This particular session we may mention, we're gonna pay attention to Zoom as well. I think in ROYTEC you guys use Microsoft Teams, as we see here in one of the responses, and I think you also use Zoom to some extent, as well as well now you're moving on to Canva. Not Canva. Is Canva? I think you guys are moving on to eventually. So we'll see how it goes, but it's still, yes, but it's still an LMS that, and it's very, Canvas is similar to MOODLE in some regard. And MOODLE is myeLearning for those of you who don't know, right? So we move further along. Were you comfortable in using those tools in educational context? 93% of you said yes, and 7% said no, or you don't know. Okay, okay. And that's perfectly fine. And hopefully, you know, during the course, by the end of this session, you might be even more comfortable. Not just in using those tools, but using them in more effective ways to increase engagement, to increase student participation and that sort of thing. What are some hindrances or issues you encountered in using these technologies in your educational context? Some people said low response from students and internet connectivity. Those are valid, very, very notable responses there. Internet connectivity and so on, and responses, because if you're not getting a high response rate, then it says something about the level of engagement, yeah? Internet provider problems. Upgraded hardware, okay, good, good. Poor quality projectors that are time constraints. To learn, oh yes, yes. So it's almost like, how do you cover all of this within such a short space of time, correct? Absence of proper working PC equipment, so hardware again, nice. Power outages, wow. Lecturer in isolation, okay. Can anybody elaborate on that, the isolation of the lecturer? Low participation, lack of knowledge, okay. Hopefully this session will cover those things or address those things. Equipment issues. Just, and you could type it in the chat or you could use your mic. With regard to the isolation of the lecturer, could you elaborate on that perhaps? And it's nothing that, you know, it's just something that, so I'll know how to provide some, so we could address it. All right, and we could.
Hi, Justin, Rewati here.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. I'm the one who actually said lecturer isolation because I don't know if you know me, but I love to see my students and be students and look at their faces and touch them sometimes. I don't know. The thing I miss in the online environment.
Right, right.
Yeah, so I feel isolated. I feel as if I'm talking to this inanimate thing.
Right.
I would prefer to talk to animate things.
Yes, but you could see a reaction and the learning and so on.
Yes, yes. So I'm the one who wrote that, and that's the clarity. I hope you know you get a sense of.
Yeah, much appreciated, and look, you get some agreement in the chat from Julia.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that is a valid concern because in this virtual environment, it almost feels sometimes that there's a disconnection. I guess that's what you're trying to say, Rewati, that there's almost a disconnection.
Yeah, yeah.
Face to face, yeah. And even though I I wouldn't even say that the online environment, teaching in the online environment would surpass or is better than the face-to-face approach. I would say that they all have their advantages and disadvantages. And sometimes, you have to know how to navigate. And very often it may not be 100% online, might be the best fit for you and your course, but it might very well be a blended approach, yeah? But of course, we're trying to incorporate blended into this context as well. So yes, agree with isolation, too many black boxes. Okay, internet connectivity. Joel also said, I agree that it is what I miss, but I also miss the reactions and being able to adjust. Yes. I mean, there are some things that, in the face-to-face environment that you can't really replace. Huh? You could try to imitate or, but the authenticity of doing it doing certain things face-to-face is just hard to replace. And yes, a blended approach will, just what I was suggesting. A blended approach would definitely help in that regard. So you get the convenience and all of the advantages of the online part of it, but you also get the connection and other advantages of the face-to-face approach. And that's why some people call it the best of both worlds. But we'll get into that in just a bit. Ricardo said a lot.
Hi, good day.
Yes, go ahead. Hi. I don't know who that was, but
good day.
Go ahead.
Good day. I would like to have a quick comment. I felt like the face-to-face adds the value of identifying special needs. So I want to put in that as my 2 cents. This is Kenan from ROYTEC, by the way.
Hi, Kenan. How are you?
Nice. Happy to be in the session.
Excellent. Happy to have you here. Yes, you're absolutely right. I think that is something that is also needs to be considered when or acknowledged when considering contemplating the transition to online or remote or blended context. How do we cater to persons who are differently abled, or that sort of thing. So that is important. And strange enough, there are ways in which they can be catered. Those situations those needs can be met even through technology, and we know this. So it's really how do we facilitate learning across the board, almost like an all-inclusive education, so to speak. All right. How do you feel about remote or online teaching and learning? I think I saw in some previous responses that you mentioned you prefer face-to-face. That's fair enough. And the loss of personal touch. Yes, definitely. The ambivalent advantage of, I'm sorry about that. I think I just made that larger. Disadvantages, okay. All right, so you still have some responses coming in. There are advantages and disadvantages, okay. And that's totally understandable. So what we're gonna go to now, even though we have in some cases apprehension or preferences, whether it's online, face-to-face, or blended, we're gonna try to cover all these things today in today's session. More specifically, the blended and the online, and even let's say remote context. All right. We're going to try and address those things as best as we could. And some of the things that we're going to cover today, they can be integrated across the board, whether it's face-to-face, online, or blended. So we're going to cover some teaching, some instructional strategies. We're going to look at some technology tools, including Poll Everywhere. At some point, that's just an aside that our division, that not a division, but a detour that we may try to cover, to look at Poll Everywhere very briefly. And that's one way in which you can engage your students. Now, Poll Everywhere is what we just use to do those polls. So it's a good way to get some quick and easy feedback from your students. So you know how to navigate, how to adjust, how to engage, yeah? So these are the objectives that we're going to try to accomplish during the course of this session. We're going to look at looking at your teaching and learning context, your instructional context. What is that like? What policies inform your context? What are some of the kinds of students you get? The traits, the personality traits, and so on. Do they come with certain preconceived notions when they come to your course? So for example, I didn't like math. And so once I hear anything with math, even Microsoft Excel, I'm like, you know, so it's just something to think about. No, Julia, we don't have a license, but you don't need one actually. You can create an account for free. And I'll show you in just a bit how to use it, how to set it up, how to use it, the different polls you can create. And it's very, very engaging, yeah? So just take a pin in that. And if I forget, just remind me in a couple of minutes, I'll get to that, all right? So because it wasn't something that was planned, but it's just something I think that would be interesting, a tool that you could take and use in your context. We're also gonna look at instructional strategies. We're gonna look at different approaches and activities and even technology tools that could help increase or improve the level of engagement when teaching in the online environment. And of course, we're going to look at technology tools like I mentioned. So first off, let's just get into the understanding your context. Now, when we think of context, in this case, you know, we just, for the most part, we transitioned from from a phase where face-to-face instruction was prevalent. And I'm talking about pre-pandemic, right? Face-to-face, that was the main way, the most prevalent way of that teaching took place, at least in our context, all right? And I'm saying our context at the UWI, inclusive of ROYTEC as well. So, you know, we teaching and learning was primarily face-to-face. Students, you and your students had to go to these brick and mortar classes, and the experience would take place in those things, those, you know, rooms and whatnot. When the pandemic happened and we were on lockdown and there was all the need for social and physical distancing and so on, we transitioned to emergency remote teaching or emergency remote education. And that eventually gave way to remote teaching and learning. And what's the difference? Well, one is emergency, one is not, right? So you can't keep the emergency for too long. But either way, it's about remote teaching and learning. So that, in this context, remote teaching and learning was sort of, yes, it was online primarily through video conferencing, whether it's Zoom, Blackboard, the LMS, whether that LMS learning management system is MOODLE or Canvas and so on and so on. And it usually comprised both synchronous and asynchronous activities. Synchronous meaning synchronous meaning real time, asynchronous meaning pre-recorded or a time delay. So like if things were sent via email, that was asynchronous communication because the time you would receive and respond to an email is later than the time I would send the email, all right? Synchronous would be like a live session like this. This is synchronous. But either way, the remote teaching and learning phase was just a temporary adjustment given the ongoing pandemic and so on at that time. Eventually, you know, but there was a need to transition to whether to go back to face-to-face or to move further into online education, which we'll get to in just a bit. But I want to put this in perspective for you. So we were remote. We went from face-to-face to remote / online. And I'm putting this here for you to give you a visual of the learning, what we call the learning continuum. So the continuum of learning, it really is a visual of where we go from face-to-face to online. On the left side of this graphic, we see it's 100% face-to-face. Now it may be web supported, meaning that, okay, for students to register for your course, they might do, in UWI St. Augustine, they may do it through Banner. I think for ROYTEC, it's the same thing. So they have to register online. and that sort of thing, but there's no teacher presence. There's no sort of material posted in the online environment, yeah? Whereas on the right side, the extreme right side with web delivered, we have 100% online. So that's fully online, everything is online. Your sessions, your asynchronous and asynchronous activities are all online, whether it's through the LMS, learning management system, like Zoom, like myeLearning or Canvas, or if the sessions are done, the synchronous sessions are done via Zoom or Blackboard Collaborate or Microsoft Teams, it's web delivered, it's 100% online. But then, so you have those two extremes. On the left side, you have face-to-face, on the right side, you have online. But then you have the middle, all right? The middle there, where you have a mixture or a combination, I should say, of online and face-to-face elements. And this is what we call a blended approach. It's almost like sometimes it's called a hybrid approach because it's a combination of the two, yeah? Of both face-to-face and online. So think of it as, online and 100% online and 100% face-to-face are the parents that came together and produced this blended hybrid offspring that we call, well, blended or hybrid approach, all right? And what we have with a blended approach, it could take many different forms. We have, for example, if you see here, it may take different forms, but these are the general traits of the blended approach. So you might have some face-to-face materials online posted in the online environment, but then your lectures may be face-to-face. Or online. Or you might have online lectures, live lectures like this, but then your resources and so on might be hard copy, you have to go in the library and so on, and physically and so on. Or you may have, it may not be that you have all your lectures online. It might be you mix them. Some weeks you have face-to-face, some weeks you have online. Yeah, likewise with the learning activities. Some of them may be online, some of them may be face-to-face. So for example, you might have in one course, you might have some activities where students have to go in the online discussion and participate there, or you might have them go and do an online presentation at some point in the course, or submit a document online. And then in other parts of the course, you may have them do another form of a face-to-face presentation or a simulation of some sort, or to perform a procedure, especially if it's in the medical sciences, for example. They would need to have those practicals per se. All right, so they could take different forms. And so the UWI, we had a policy for blended learning way back when, in I think 2011 or 2010. And but we also had what we call the strategic plan. And I'm only referring to this to make the point that whatever the policy, whether it's the policy for blended learning, the multimodal policy, which we have now, and so on, or the AAA strategy, one of them, of course, one of the components of the AAA strategy is access. And this is where online and to an extent blended learning or approaches shine, so to speak. All right, likewise with agility, given the recent pandemic and the context that we are now in. All right, so in this policy, the policy for online or multimodal, which covers all different modes of delivery, we have face-to-face, we have online, and we have blended. All right, now we see, I just wanted to put some definitions here. So I pulled this straight from that particular document to give you some sort of a clearer context or understanding of the university's definition of these things. All right, so when we see face-to-face, a face-to-face course, what it comprises, all right, so it's predominantly in a physical space, all right, as we see here. It's predominantly, so in other words, the majority of the course is done through face-to-face lectures and activities, all right? And of course, they use contact hours to help define all of these things. If it's online, of course, the course is prevalently or prevalently comprised of online materials or online activities. All right. So there's no face-to-face meets or contact at all. Everything is online. So if you put this in context to the previous slide, the first one, which is face-to-face, is on the extreme left side, and the online course is on the extreme right side. Now, in all contexts, you could have it as synchronous or asynchronous delivery, whether it's face-to-face, online, or blended. Of course, they more specifically refer to online and blended modes of delivery, that you can have synchronous and asynchronous activities. So synchronous, like I said, will be live teaching and learning like what we have here. And asynchronous will be activities that may not happen in a live context. Yeah? So I just want to get those definitions out of the way before we move into the meat of it. And of course, this speaks to, remember I told you that online and face-to-face came together and made blended, the blended offspring. And this is what we have here. In the context of the UWI-STA, St. Augustine campus, we have some specification with regard to credit hours and contact hours and so on. And maybe our colleagues in UWI-ROYTEC may even be interested in some of these little bits of information, even as you make the necessary adjustments in your context as well. Yeah. So it's just to give some idea or some insight to what makes what distinguishes a blended course from an online course from a face-to-face course. And likewise, for the same principles sort of apply for an online or blended program as well. All right. And like I said before, we see at the bottom of this slide, emergency remote teaching is a temporary shift. It's not meant to be permanent. It's not meant to be long-term, but it's a temporary shift. So in light of the pandemic at the time, that was a temporary shift. All right. So hopefully that clears up certain things with regard to our context and the conceptualization of online, blended, and face-to-face approaches. Now, when you're teaching in the online or blended context, there are some things that you're going to need. So you could look at them as 5 pillars or tenets, or 5 pillars, let's call them pillars. And under each pillar, you have certain tenets that you might want to consider or pay attention to. So, of course, you're going to need course content. That would be reading material, but it may not just be reading material. It could also be videos, graphics. So anything that pertains to that, case studies even, several courses in the online environment, instead of giving students a bunch of content to read, you can also give them videos. We know that in this particular, the kinds of, the students that we have now, many of them, of course, millennials or centennials even, they tend to like, I shouldn't say they, but we tend to like videos. They search things, instead of taking the time to read through very long documents, they'll quicker look at a YouTube video, do a quick Google search. Wikipedia, for example, is a favorite of some people. So it's all of that comprises course content, readings, videos, graphics. So your content, what I'm trying to say is that your content, even in an asynchronous online context, it doesn't have to be just one type of content, like articles to read. Everything is to read. Because when you do that, you only cater to the reading type of learners and not those who are more visual and who are more kinesthetic and so on. So you definitely want to, so that's one principle there that you can use to engage your students. Try to use a variety or diverse or differentiated types of materials or content. So it's not just all about reading, but it's also about looking at videos, doing other research and webquests and so on, which we'll get into in just a bit. Course activities, they may take the form in the online environment, they may take the form of or blended context, they may take the form of online discussions, quizzes, presentations, which may be group presentations or individual presentations, and other tasks or projects. Likewise for assessments. Of course, we know the only difference, one of the main differences between course activities and assessments is that the assessments are weighted, all right? And it's a formal, you know, whereas the course activity is that what we may call informal assessments, the formal assessments are weighted. So you might have a quiz that is worth 20% of the final course mark. You might have an essay or a project or practicum that they must do to complete the course or to pass the course. All right. And in the online environment, like I mentioned, this can take the form of presentations, quizzes, group projects, you know, presentations, and so on. All of that comes under assessments as well. And then you must have some sort of conferencing, web conferencing software. So in most cases, it may be Zoom. And we used to have Blackboard Collaborate at the UWI St. Augustine campus. In UWI-ROYTEC, I think you have MS Teams, correct? Microsoft Teams, yeah. So you must have a web conferencing software that would allow for your lectures. And I want to use the word lectures very cautiously, because a lecture is sometimes not the most effective way of facilitating or maximizing teaching and learning, at least in the traditional sense, all right? So even if you're having a lecture, there are different strategies, instructional strategies that you could fold into that to make it more engaging for learners. And of course, you must have an LMS, an online platform, a learning management system where content and activities and assessments and so on can be accessed. In UWISTA, it's myeLearning. In UWI-ROYTEC, it's Canvas. So even those, you know, let's say you have a face-to-face course, you may be desirous of transitioning or converting that course into an online offering or a blended offering, in which case you may not have to start from scratch, but because you already have the wheel, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, but you may need to tweak certain things. But even when you're tweaking, you want to make sure there's alignment. Could anybody tell me what alignment means, or what do I mean by alignment? I've been talking too much. So anybody wants to tell me what they think alignment is? There's no wrong answer per se. Avalon, do you want to take a shot at it? What does this graphic mean to you? Or what is it saying to you?
Hi, I'm Julia Kotsubu.
Hi.
From my perspective, it means, this graphic means that the teaching, learning content supports the learning goals and the learning objectives and vice versa. So you cannot create objectives and then not delivering the content so that it does not support. And the same is with the activities, the tools you use, they must feed the learning goals and objectives. So when a learning objective is, for instance, to have creative thinkers and you never have a discussion, instead of only have reading, then it becomes very difficult to meet that goal. And the same is with feedback and assessments. So when you want to have, when the learning objective is to have individual, independent or independent group workers, for instance, if there's a learning objective, the student must be work independently and in groups, but you don't have any kind of group work in it, and you also do not give the feedback so that they can become a group, then it becomes difficult for them to reach these learning objectives.
Right.
There's a mismatch between tools, content, and the learning tool and the learning goals and objectives. Excellent.
Thank you so much for that. You're absolutely right. So there must be some sort of, and I see we have in the chat as well. So there must be some sort of alignment. So there must, in other words, cohesion, or they must help to inform each other. And Rewati said, you hit the nail on the head, Rewati. Objectives must match content taught, which must also match the assessment. So everything must connect like the parts of a puzzle. So think of it like this. I know we just had, well, for some of you, you just had lunch. I didn't, but you may have you may be preparing a dish, all right? Let's say you're making chow of some sort, like a mango chow. You might have that chow or you have the ingredients for that chow, you're mixing it all together, but there are some ingredients that just would not fit in that chow. So if you're making a mango chow, you're probably gonna need obviously mango, you're gonna need salt, you're gonna need pepper, you're gonna need some sort of seasoning, correct? Other, green seasoning of some sort. Let me know because I know you guys are chow specialists inside here as well. But one ingredient that you will not need, you're probably not gonna throw a soft drink in or juice in a chow, yeah? Or if you're making roti, you're not gonna put something that does not belong there because it could spoil the entire dish, correct? And that's the analogy I'm trying to make. So there must be alignment or cohesion. Everything must work together to make it a smooth, cohesive or thorough course or lesson or what have you. Raymond said, hi Raymond, by the way, alignment ensures that online curriculum goals, instructional practices and assessments are intact. Exactly, they work in tandem. And that's exactly it, like a bicycle. All right. So thank you so much for that. So this is a good time as any to sort of think about this. Now to think of your course, think of the context that you're in, and the context not only comprises the types of learners and so on, but it also comprises the resources you have at your fingertips. Whether you have a solid internet connection, whether you have a big class, whether you have a big class, like a large number of students, whether you have that tech support, yeah? So think of those things as we go forward. Now, what I want you to do in this activity, I'm gonna post a link in just a bit in the chat, and I want you to consider or to share with us some of the things that comprise your context. And when I say things that comprise, like just give us a bit of a description of, let me just get the link for you. A little description of your teaching context. So you should see the link in the chat right now. All right. So I want you to describe, before we go any further, I want you to describe your learners. What kind of learners do you have in your teaching context? So click on that link and it should take you to a page that looks like this. I'm not sure if you can see this. Let me share this page. Now to add to this page, and I like to leave this, the previous comments because it allows us to see that, sometimes you might think that you have one particular context and it's an anomaly, but several other educational practitioners are facing the same thing. So what I want you to do is double click anywhere on the wall, or you would see a pink plus sign at the lower left side. Click on that plus sign and it will allow you to add a comment. So you can double click anywhere on the wall. All right, the wall meaning this brown part behind all the posts, or you can click the plus sign at the lower left side of the wall, and it's going to prompt you to make a comment. So we have some comments coming in. Someone said 18 to 60-year-olds, non-specialist learners, a variety of educational and cultural backgrounds. Wow, so you have a diverse group of persons, yeah? Traversing, mobile, distracted learners. When you say distracted, what do you mean? And you could use your mic at this point. When you say distracted, is it that they're easily distracted amongst themselves or distracted by technologies that are competing for their attention?
I'm suggesting distracted by their own environmental factors.
Okay, nice. So that could be whether they are on social media while also in your online class, yes. Lovers of They could even be on TikTok while they're supposed to be paying attention to your class. Yeah. Lovers of TikTok, I like that.
I've had situations where students are actively working while participating in class as well.
Ooh, yes, that is true. I've had situations like that as well. So they're there, but not necessarily 100% attentive. Yeah, because of the work situation. That is a valid concern as well. Someone said myeLearners, first year students who choose to improve their grammar. What do you mean by that? They choose to improve their grammar, or they need to improve their grammar? I'm asking. Someone, while that person is, and you could type it in the chat or you could use your mic. Someone else posted a blend of students who are of diverse background as abilities. Some have already completed degrees, others are fresh from secondary school, while most are already part of the teaching fraternity. Okay. Multitaskers. Are multitaskers easily distracted? I'm asking. You would know the students. Someone said different backgrounds, age, social status, and they're tech savvy. Okay, good. So they would easily adjust to your technology integration and so on in your sessions. Most of my students are year one degree programs who are in the transitionary stage of secondary to tertiary education. Okay. As such, they prefer to be oh, yes. They prefer to be spoon-fed and interact less with lecturers, as they may have some fear of the new teaching style and so on. Okay. So therefore, in a case like that, I'm not sure who posted that comment, but you probably need to use more of a hands-on, what's the word I'm looking for? A learner-centered approach. And we'll get into that in just a bit, where they do more of the learning or teaching and so on. And you're just guiding on the side, all right? Short concentration span and unable to write. So they have, I'm assuming you're saying grammatical errors in their writing, all right? Okay, I'm looking at some others here. Students in their second term face-to-face who started their program online. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I posted that was unable to write. They write in the WhatsApp style. They're not writing full sentences and have difficulty to express themselves.
Okay. And that is a problem. So they, in other words, they struggle to string a sentence together or a paragraph. And of course, so you see the kinds of, that is a direct correlation to the way they may text on social media, for example. Yeah. Independent learners. Okay. The new best friend. All right. Okay, good. So these responses are quite insightful. Or someone even gave, I like that you gave a age range. Somebody posted, I think 19 to 18 to 60 years of age. Someone said mostly 25-year-olds or mature students, regional, some with no prior tertiary level experience. Wow. So we have quite a, I'm glad that you know your learners fairly well, because these are things that would inform the way we navigate or the way we teach. Sometimes, people always say that you sometimes teach the way you were taught, or whatever your experience was as a student, informs the way you teach. And that is true to an extent, but ideally, we should really be teaching the way our students' learning needs put before us, all right? And this is why it's so important to do what we call a learner analysis. So, and the reason I was asking that is so you know off the top of your head, what are the kind, because you've probably been teaching for the course or courses for quite some time. So you kind of have an idea of the dominant kinds of students you get, the prevalent student profiles. And when we think of a learner analysis, we think of all these things, demographic information or biodata, if you want to call it that. So age, location, sex, etc. In some cases, some of you will know, if you have more men than women or women than men in your courses. The research has shown that we tend to have more women than men in undergraduate studies, and sometimes more men than women in postgraduate studies, and that varies with different fields and faculties and so on. So all of that you want to consider. More importantly, their prior knowledge and experiences. Many of you mentioned that just now. They came from, some of your students come from straight from secondary school, so they lack the knowledge of the field, the in-depth knowledge of the field. They come with certain preconceived notions, you know, that sort of thing. I remember in undergraduate, my undergraduate years, I had some friends who they signed up for a particular program or course, but didn't know what it was about, whether it was linguistics, for example, and they didn't know what linguistics comprised, you know? So some people might think it might just be English A when it's not. So, so, you know, you have, and like, as I mentioned with my preconceived notions regarding mathematics. So those are things that you want to consider. Physiological traits. If it's a mature set of students, then you're not going to incorporate activities that may be overly challenging for very mature students. Yeah. So you want to make sure whatever activities you have incorporated or plan to do, they're age appropriate, they can resonate with the students, so students can relate to them. Yeah. Likewise, the affective and social needs, so the emotional side of things. Is it that students are coming with apprehension, fear, you know, that sort of thing? Those are the things you want to consider. So it's really, generally speaking, you have the demographic side of it, yes. All right. But you also need to consider the prior knowledge, what they already know, and experience as well, what they've already experienced. I think someone mentioned that they come without certain skills of they're not able to write like using formal language. Some people might say they are easily distracted. That might be a cognitive thing. The physical aspects of it. If you're going to ask certain students to go and do certain fields, do certain activities, sorry, that they're not age appropriate, yeah, from a physiological side of things. And of course, how they feel about it, whether they are fearful, whether they are overly confident, that might be the other extreme. So you want to make sure you consider all of these things so that you can more ably and more effectively meet their needs. Yeah? Any questions on that so far? Okay. And really, you're doing this so you could be more tailored or targeted, I should say, in what you do, your design, your instructional design, and so on. And there are different ways you could get bits and pieces of information to make up on Learner Analysis. When students register for your courses online, whether it's through Banner or whatever platform, they may, you would get that biodata from them. So if most students who do your course might come from a background of sciences, they all did physics, they all did, you know, whatever the case is. So that's one way you might get information for a needs assessment. You might do an activity like what I did earlier with Poll Everywhere. All right. The Poll activity, the Poll Everywhere activity just asks a couple of questions. So I was able to tweak certain things. I'm able to tweak certain things along the way. But however you get your information, you're able to use that information now to tweak or design your instruction, yeah, to more effectively meet their learning needs, because that's really what it's about. Eh? Now, there are different parts of a learner analysis for your consideration. Some learners may have certain preconceived notions. So for example, Adriana, what course do you teach or field do you teach? If not Adriana, Janine, anybody, what field do you could just, Marsha or Melanie? What I'm asking, right, sport, languages, right? And you could respond to. And I think I heard a mic on just now. Go ahead.
Engineering.
Yes, we're hearing.
Engineering, ergonomics, engineering.
Okay, engineering. All right.
Yeah.
And that's Ricardo, correct? Yes.
That's correct, yes.
Good. And we have some in the chat as well. So what are some preconceived notions that students come with when they at the beginning of your course, for example? Marsha said, right, preconceived notions, it's easy or not academic. And I think Marsha referring to, let me scroll up in the chat, you teach, is it languages? Or sport? Yes, sport, right? Avian said they come with the preconceived notion that learning a language is easy and does require effort. So they're overconfident, as I mentioned earlier, right? Good, good. In other words, they may not take it as seriously or take it, and when I say seriously, like putting the extra effort. They come in with little math and it's easy, okay? And we know we need math for engineering. So Earl said they think quantitative methods is mathematics and therefore very true. I could relate to that to an extent until I learned I knew better. Avian said exactly. So you could, yes, I could relate to Avian. Melanie said foundation course. All right. The foundation course is academic literacies. They feel the course is easy and they make minimum effort. Right. Raymond said they come with expectations similar to those they had in secondary school. Okay, it becomes a culture shock. So when you say expectations, you mean that they think it's possible or it's difficult or the teacher must feed everything to them? Is that what you're referring? Is that what you're referring to, Raymond?
Yes, the feed-in part, just writing notes on the board and just the teacher doing all the talking. They're not really engaged that much, and you're just giving them information.
So you basically become their version of Google, a human Google.
Yeah. Everything is spoon-fed. So the idea of research and other things that they kind of get shocked over that they actually have to do something. They have to get into research. They have to do a bit more self-directed learning.
Yes.
That becomes a shock.
Definitely. So those are some of the things that students, come with. They have certain, and I think you could relate it to when you were students as well, yeah? In courses such as, early saying, in courses such as leadership, which require research and reading, some students perceive that the course is easy. And they try to skate through without doing much, putting in much effort. All right. And technically, all of you said in the chat could fit into some of these tenets here. And let me ask to flesh out some more. Let me call PowerPoint material as content. Yes. So they will always ask for your PowerPoint and so on after, right? Natasha, what are some of the group characteristics? So in other words, what are the students that come into your course? Do they have a close network? Or are they like to work together, or they like group work, or they tend to stay in their own little silos or corners and they prefer that? Have you observed any of that? Likewise for Michelle or Nicholas. What is the group dynamic of the cohort in your class? Julia said they have to transition from memorization-based learning to innovative. Yes. And that is a gap, that they sometimes struggle with. Yes, I heard a mic is on.
Yes, Justin, Michelle here. I'm from the library. I find that the students tend to use our group study rooms a lot. So I take it that either the lecturers are giving them all the group work, or they like to come together and discuss things. So our group study rooms are heavily used now.
That is quite unique, because I'm sure some of the other lecturers here will say that they don't like group work. So that's, you see why I have to ask these things. So that's very good that you have students who like group work. Yeah. Anybody else could relate to that or have seen differently in their courses?
Some of them, good morning, good afternoon.
How
Some
are
of
you?
them like group work for the sole purpose of being able to write the backs of persons in the group. So in that regard, but for the really conscientious and the overachiever, the group work is a nightmare, simply because of what I would have mentioned before.
Yes.
Outside of that, though, I find that because I interact a lot with those persons who want to become teachers, I'm always amazed at the level of, and I want to say, quote unquote, stinginess that takes place. It's as though they feel that only one, there's a first and a second place, I suppose, and only one person can come first. They don't realize, and I have often shared with them that doctors consult, lawyers consult, and so on. And therefore, as part of the profession, we cannot be afraid to consult. It's different from riding the backs of others. So that's one of the upsetting kind of characteristics that I find among them.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. I think you raised some good points there, and all of you thus far. I think given all of that, you know what you mentioned there, that there are two extremes. One, that on one side, you have persons who do not like group work. And then on the other side, you have persons who may like group work or they need to learn, appreciate group work for various reasons. And so as the lecturer, or the course coordinator, or whatever office you hold, you have to find that balance. So everything in the course cannot be, all the assessments cannot be group work, right? Even though sometimes it might be easier for the marking purposes of group work, everything cannot be group. Likewise, everything cannot be done individually. So you want to find a balance between, have a course where you have a little bit of group work and a little bit of individual assessments. All right. So, and of course, motivation and all these different things. There's some persons might be motivated for group work, as you mentioned, because they could ride on others at the expense of others, and others hate it and so on. So you want to find that balance. All right. And sometimes trying to find that balance means that you have to kind of put a bit of everything. Yeah. So I wouldn't do this now. I think you kind of did this earlier. But the reason I wanted to spend so much time on the instructional, on the learner analysis is because it informs everything that we're going to cover next. So how quickly do you go through the lesson? Someone posted in the Padlet tool that, sometimes you have so much to cover and so little time. Some people mentioned the techniques, that you don't have students don't participate, right? So once you understand the learners, then you're able to be more strategic. I know I shouldn't say strategic, but instructional design is really about being strategic about what you do, yeah, in the teaching and learning process, or strategic in your instruction or the activities you incorporate. So, but you must understand what you're dealing with before, almost like a diagnosis, before just designing an activity and hope for the best, that it's effective, yeah? So that is why I wanted to take a more systematic approach in this regard, because once we understand the learner, then we are able to engage the learner. So before I go further, I want to show you just very quickly what not new, but a tool that might be of interest to you, Poll Everywhere. Julia, I don't think you reminded me, just say that. So, but anyways, so Poll Everywhere. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'll share my screen. So you need to go to what we call a site called Poll Everywhere. It's very easy. It's very, very easy. All you have to do is go to, you could even do a Google search, Poll Everywhere. All right. So I'm showing my screen. Sorry, let me share the right screen. Now I'm already logged in, so it might look a little different, but I just did a simple Google search for poll everywhere. And thank you, Mr. Garcia. I was going to ask you to post it as well. Good. So Mr. Garcia posted it for you. So you're just going to click on that link in the chat. And it will take you to a page, a login page. Now I'm already logged in, so it may look a little different. All right. Oh, good. I'm not logged in this particular tab. So nice. So, oh no, I am. So, so you would see at the top right here, sign in or sign up. You might see it at the top right side. So click on sign up. Or if you happen to do a Google search, you could do right there, sign up today. All right. And it's very simple. What you're going to do, you're just going to put, insert a username, your email, sorry. So your email might be, for example, johndoe@hotmail.com or whatever the case is. All right. And this is an account you own this account. So this is like any other account you have. It's not necessarily tied to any school institution, but it's just a free account. So you could use it for whatever you like. All right. So I'll give you a minute to sort of complete that. And you could just put a thumbs up in the chat when you have signed up. You may need, in some cases, you may need to verify your account. So like an email will be sent just to verify your account, and that's perfectly fine. All right, Raymond, you have it. Good. You're done with that. So I'll show you just, once we get more persons with the thumbs up, I'll show you where to go so you could create your first poll. So I'll kind of orient you, just a brief orientation of where things are at, what is the navigation, how to create your first poll and so on. So it shouldn't take very long, all right? And how to share it. So anybody else is completed with that? You want to make sure you set a password that you can remember. Even if it's the same password as your email address, that's perfectly fine. That, you know, you could always change it shortly thereafter. All right, Julia is finished. Good. So we're just waiting on some more responses. Sheldon, very good. Avian, good, good. Melanie, good. See, humanities rocking. So I'll give a couple more seconds to for the others to post the thumbs up.
Just I'm saying.
Right. Oh, Rewati, you're not getting in? Is it that you signed up already, Rewati, or no?
I went in, I put in the email, I put a password, and then I got this email. So do I go on my email? So I said confirm email.
Right.
Okay, and now do I log in?
Yes. So you go back to the site and you log in.
Okay.
The same credentials that you just
right. Okay. Good.
Right. Very good. Yes, Julia, and I think you did yours already. So yes, you can do that as well with this tool. Now, the reason I'm showing you this tool, there are different ways you can use this tool. You can even integrate it into your PowerPoint, like I did just now. So the poll that I just showed you at the beginning of this workshop, I did it through the PowerPoint because there's an add-on to the PowerPoint. So a feature that merges with the PowerPoint. Yeah, so you don't have to necessarily switch to poll everywhere directly. To use poll everywhere, you could get it into your, integrate it into your PowerPoint. So it's just one slideshow, and once you log in, it's there. You can log in through your slideshow as well.
I'm not getting in here at all, boy. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, Ricardo, no?
Yeah.
So what did you do thus far? Did you
I saw something say join. And yeah, participant. It asked if it was a participant or presenter. I said participant, and then I went ahead, put in all the emails there, put in a password.
Mm-hmm.
And I said join, and I didn't get it.
Oh, probably you joined as a participant and not a presenter. All right.
Oh yes.
So okay, so click on the link again. Let me post it. Oh, Mr. Garza, if you have it, you could just post it a little faster. And or you can always go to the settings of your account. And
I'm back in here. So saying get started. All right.
Nice.
So go through get started, right? Or sign up. Or sign up.
Sign up.
Yes, sign up. And then I'm a presenter.
Yes.
Right. Okay. That's Ricardo. Okay, I had to put in my last name here too.
Right.
Yes, I didn't. Right. Okay, so let me go through all that.
All right. No problem at all. And once you get to put in your email address and login credentials and so on, then you're good to go. All right.
Okay.
So I see a lot of others have, right? Another person's finished. Okay, good. And Ricardo, you could type in the chat. Let me know when you get through that very quickly.
Okay.
And I could always come back as well, right? To guide you.
All right.
Once you're in, you would see a page that looks something like this, correct? Where you might see home and log out at the top right side. Correct? Yeah? So if you click on home, it would take you to a page that looks like this. Now, yours might look a little different, but that's okay. You would see at the top right side your poll everywhere link. Now that's a standard link that could be used anytime you're on poll everywhere and you bring up the particular poll, participants will be able to complete it. All right. It's very secure. Don't worry. So what you're gonna do, you would see on the left side, you would see a ribbon with some different avenues you could go. But you don't have to go there now. You should see on the left side this little button, like a plus sign activity or plus activity or add activity. So what I want you to do is click on that icon or that button. You may get a pop-up that will ask you to, just for feedback, but you could always say, you could click ask me later. You don't have to fill that out now. And let's start with, let's say something like, okay, good, Ricardo. Thank you so much for that. So let's say something like a multiple choice, all right, which is already set by default, because that's the first in the list. Now, let me just show you some of the others that you could get. You have a word cloud question or type of poll. So what that does is every time persons post a response to the poll question or STEM, the cloud changes or the cloud grows with different colors, with different, whatever the input, whatever their response is, it comes out in that thing. We have open-ended questions, which is what you saw earlier. We have multiple choice, which is also what you saw earlier. And that sort of thing. So let's try a multiple choice question first. So you might want to put, let's say, did you have lunch yet, right? Or did you have lunch today? In this case, one response will be yes. One response will be no. and I might want to add a response or an option. And I would simply click add option, which is at the bottom of the list right here. And I could put I would like to. All right. Or I could even say not yet. All right. So once you're done with that, you're going to click create. Let me know if I'm going too quickly. Right. So let me just go over the process for anyone who may have missed it. All right. So you're going to the top of the right side, top right side, you would see home. You click on home, and that would take you to your, what we call typically your dashboard. You go into that dashboard space, and then you click activities, which is usually on the left side, a blue button with a plus sign, and activity, the word activity. You click on that, and that will take you to this page. All right. Any questions so far?
I could only add something because I work with this tool as well. So what is nice for the students is that you can click on this icon for a picture next to the garbage bin, and you can upload pictures, which makes it more to visualize more your question. I think this is one of the biggest advantages compared to, for instance, a poll in Zoom or a poll on MOODLE.
Yes.
That you can create more appropriate multiple choice questions here by uploading these pictures. Definitely.
It's certainly much more engaging than the MOODLE, not MOODLE, sorry, the Zoom poll, because of the visuals, the stimuli that you have with this, and it doesn't even have to be multiple choice questions all the time. You could change it up a bit. So once you do all of that, you put in the STEM and you put in the options. You could click create, and you would see a page that looks like this with your question and the responses or options. And you have the option now to determine how people will access or respond to this. So you would see on the right side how people can respond. Yeah. You click on that, it's a drop-down menu. It's on the right side. And you can easily just copy this link. So you would see pollev.com and something that is built off of the data that you put in to create your account. So in my case, it's Justin Zephyr with some numbers behind it or after it. So you could just copy that link and post it. Now, when you copy this link, the activity has to be active. All right. In other words, this little button down here, you see it, the green button at the bottom of the question. You'll see it's a padlock. One is locked and one is an unlocked padlock. You have to make sure that it's unlocked. So in other words, persons could access it when you bring it up. Yeah. So far, so good. So what you can do is the other settings could stay as is. You don't need to go through, the response settings and all of that, unless you want persons to be able to post more than once. But I would imagine you would want just one response, right, per person. So you copy this link. And let's try and post it in the chat. So I could post mine in the chat. And if you click on it, if you click on it to respond, you would see the responses coming synchronously or almost immediately. All right, so I'll ask Mr. Duku or Garcia to maybe respond to that poll so you see how quickly it comes in. And yes, you can unlock as many as you want. In fact, when I show you how many polls I have, you would see how many you could actually have. Okay, so I see we have someone posted a link here. Let me copy it. I'm not sure if that is the link, but we'll. All right, you should also see at the end of the link, you should also see, go back here. One sec. You should also see respond. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, I'm sorry. You should also see, I'll go back to it in just a sec. You should also see respond at the end of it. So for example, you notice you see respond at the end of this link here that I think I'm copying from Earl. You would see respond. All right, that's when you know it's a response link as well. So if I click enter, right, it would ask me for a name. Let's say I'm putting Jay-Z for now. Did you have lunch today? Not yet. Right, and early you would see the responses in your poll. Actually, you should have seen it already because
yes, I'm seeing it. Right. Yes, 32% yes and 67% not yet.
Right, and I'm seeing another one here. Good. I'll register for credit. Skip now. And I don't know what that was about. So let's say I put my name there. Which of the lunch options was the healthiest of all today? Salad with. All right, so let's say that. All right. Avian. So you should see some responses coming in real time. All right, so even as we respond, you would see some responses coming in. Which do you prefer? A weekend at the beach? A weekend, ooh, that's a hard one. Unless the beach is it's in the countryside. You get the best of both worlds, right? Yes. So you see how easy that is, right? And if I were to create, let's say I want to go back. So I go back to this using this button here, click this back button at the top left side, activities. Look at what it would take me to. Back to the dashboard and back to this page where I have all of my polls. All right, including the one I created just recently. Right? Now, if I wanted to create a new poll, I could do that even from this page, the same process. The plus sign and the activity. And if I wanted to make a word cloud, just very quickly, I'll do it. What did you have for lunch today? All right, it's just a quick thing I'm creating. And this one is fairly easy because you don't have to put in any multiple choice options. So once I'm finished with that, I click create. And yeah, that's basically it. How will people respond? Now, you could have the link up here. Now that's if you have no other what you call it, poll that's open, but I have several others, so you might get the wrong poll. But in this case, even if you're doubtful of that, the best way to make sure you get the correct link, you just go to your dashboard and you simply click on this, but the three, sort of like a vertical ellipsis, if you want to call it that, and you click copy response link. All right, copy response link. And I'm going to post that in the chat. Now I want you to see what happens with this word cloud. So if you can get some persons to respond to that. And cakes, somebody said air. Keep it coming, keep it coming. Nothing yet, okay. Session, okay. Something tasty, I don't know what it is.
Where's the place?
What's that? I posted the link in the chat.
Yes, I saw it, sorry.
Right. Somebody had a donut, somebody had fish, somebody had cakes, somebody had salad, somebody had pork. Wow. Somebody had Justin for lunch. I don't know how that. Cricks. Wow, the vital supplies. Eggs. Peanut punch. Banana, CMOS. Also, somebody had like a punch with CMOS, banana, peanut, I'm assuming, or peanut butter. So you see how it goes. And the more you post certain words, let's say, for example, persons posted nothing. Then you would realize nothing would be, or more people posted fish. Look, so fish became the biggest word in terms of the font size. All right. Some people had potatoes, some people had callaloo, some people are fasting, right? Some people had mashed potato, broccoli, soup, right? Training. All right, so you see how it's responsive, it's synchronously. All right, so fish and so on. So, and you can make this full screen and whatnot, and you can even integrate it into your PowerPoint. Now I could show you that after this workshop, but we digress. But I just wanted to show you how you can engage students even when teaching in a synchronous online context. All right. And you saw how easy that was, right? Very easy. So if you want to learn how to do it, how to integrate it into your PowerPoint, I can send you a tip sheet, just a quick one-page document that would show you how to do just that. All right. But essentially, you just go to the home page, and there's a document there for that as well, or there's a video that will show you how to do it as well. All right, but I will send you that document. I see we have one raised hand. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Justin, what I noted too is that in terms of this particular activity, if you put like a phrase with 2 or more words, it really only picks one.
Yes.
Right? Because I actually didn't have you. I had a training session with Justin. Right. So you realize it separated it.
Yeah, it wouldn't. It would separate it. So
so it may be good to say that to the students as well in terms of
definitely
how they give their response. So I don't want anybody to think I was eating you.
So is this Tyler word cloud generator?
What's that? Yes, this is word cloud generator. What you can do is put it in the stem of the question. In one word, what did you have for lunch today? So that might be something to clarify.
Yes.
For students. Right? So that is perfectly fine. And the thing is, nobody could see what you posted, so I wouldn't have known it was you at all. All right?
No, but I just thought it was noteworthy, you know what I mean, as a learning experience.
Definitely. And look, Candice discovered something. If you put dashes in between the words, it keeps it as a one-word phrase or sentence. So that's something worth trying as well, by all means. All right. So solution there. I like how this group is moving. There's a problem, and then we had a solution, several solutions. All right. So thank you so much for that. I think we did pretty good thus far, even though I just want to bring us back into into the on point of things. Yes, Julia, very quickly.
You said you can't see where the responses are coming from, but Paul everywhere has a history, which is might interesting when you do some learning activities, where you can say exactly you can ask the participants to sign in by name, and you can see when, at when time, and when they responded.
Yes. I was referring to the cloud just now, that you wouldn't see who.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, it's more in the back end that you as a teacher or you as the generator of the question can see where if you want to, if it's not anonymously. Yes,
definitely. But even, you know, and it depends on what the goal is as a teacher, whether you might be interested in the students posting their names or not, because usually it can be set to be optional, right? Whether they posted a name or pseudonym even where necessary. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. So it's just one of the several ways in which, and an easy way that you can engage learners. Now, what is engagement? Engagement is not just, you know, you could attend a session, but not necessarily participate. One of the best indicators of engagement is participation. And so Schlechte came up with a scale, so to speak, or different levels or tiers of engagement. At the top level, we have engagement, as we see in this table, where we have high attention and high commitment, which is what you're aiming for. In other words, this student is motivated, this student they're really driven. So even so much so that they would work through the difficulties or the challenges that come with the course or the activities to accomplish, not just to pass the course, but because they take their learning seriously. Yeah. And then we have some students who, what Schlechte calls strategic compliance, meaning that that person is focusing on passing the course or passing the course well. So you might find that person is concerned about what they do only because, not so much about the content per se, but really because they want to pass the course well, or they want to maintain a high GPA, yeah? But what Schlechte has found in this regard is that sometimes retention might be low, right? So for example, now remember I told you back in the day I struggled with math, but I had a brother who got a distinction in math, you know, an older brother. But he couldn't help me in preparing for my mathematics exam, because after he got his distinction in mathematics at CSEC, that was it. He passed the subject, and that was it. All right. So you have some students who might just want to pass the course basically, or pass it well because of their GPA and so on. And that is what we call strategic compliance. Then you have ritual compliance, which is a little different. It's where the student is just trying to get by, yeah? In other words, while strategic compliance is trying to pass the course but pass it well, ritual compliance is more like trying to pass the course at the lowest level. So they're aiming for 50 or they're aiming for 60 or whatever it is to pass the course. Retreatism is where the student is not really engaged. All right, so they're not really motivated in any way to do the work. They're not going to participate in any activities. They're going to submit mediocre work, and that's basically it. They kind of skate through, if you want to call it that, or they barely pass, if at all. And then you have the rebellion side. The rebellion is where there's diverted attention and there's no commitment. So these persons tend to be very disruptive in your classes, and sometimes, if not managed well, it could become contagious, yeah, or hinder or change the learning environment or hinder others from learning. All right, so you really want to make sure that the reason I'm showing you this is because all of this is part of engagement. And remember, we're looking at engaging students in the online environment. Very often what I've found is once students are motivated, right? Motivation is tantamount to effective teaching and learning. Even for the rebellious sort of or disruptive students, once you give them some sort of motivation, whether it is you give them a task where they have to present, or give them a responsibility where they have to manage something in the class. So for example, if you have a disruptive student, you might want to give that student the responsibility, quote unquote, to be your tech support in your classes. Yeah. So that student now is a little more invested and motivated in the learning. So you help that student to become motivated, right? Why do I know this? Not only because of the research, but I could relate it as well from both sides. All right. So, so it works. But you always want to ensure that learning is an active experience and not just they sitting down listening to you. And you notice thus far in this workshop, you've been doing several things, whether it's posting in the discussion forum, in the chat, using your mics to contribute to the discussion, using poll everywhere, using Padlet. So all of these things thus far, it's really to help you, not just to expose you to new technology tools and principles, teaching principles, but also to make the teaching and learning process more of an active experience. Why? Because you remember more of what you do than if you just hear me talking, you're just going to remember 20% of what I say. But if you do it, you're going to remember more, right? Over 90%. And so that's what we want to aim for, that retention. So it's not just engagement. Normally they work hand in hand. When you have high level engagement, as evidenced by increased participation and that sort of thing, interaction and so on, it ultimately leads to greater retention. All right. Plus after a big lunch. Exactly, Michelle. You hit the nail on the head. All right. So in terms of strategizing for success, what we're going to look at very quickly would be some instructional strategies that could help in engaging students in the online environment. So one of the things with student-centered learning, or student-centered teaching, sorry, is that it's teaching with the student in mind. Remember I mentioned earlier about the importance of a learner analysis? Well, now you see the connection, because it's a student-centered approach that you want to adopt. And a student-centered approach, otherwise known as participatory learning, that's one of the tenets of it. Participatory learning is really getting the student actively involved in the experience, teaching and learning experience. I know for me, when I was in secondary school, for example, some courses, some subjects or classes, I may have been a bit on the disruptive side. Hopefully it wasn't, I don't know. But I became more engaged when I had more things to do. It became more real to me. So for example, I remember history. At one point in time, I wasn't too keen. I wouldn't say I didn't like it. I liked history, but it wasn't the most exciting thing for me at one particular time. And so one thing that made it very interesting for me was when we had to, when the teacher gave a project where you had to go and create some sort of cultural, I don't want to call it a sculpture, but something that was used back in a particular time. And so what I did, I got some clay, make a molding of whatever this thing was, and got very creative with it. And history became more interesting to me because it was something I didn't have to just sit and listen or read a book. Likewise with geography, I love geography. I still teach geography to this day, but I didn't like it initially. It wasn't, well, physical geography, let me say it like that, because certain parts of it, I don't know if you have any persons interested in geography here, but let's say when it came to the atmosphere and learning different things about geography, I didn't like. But then it became real to me when the teachers took us on a field trip and we went out and did some research and so on. Exactly, Sheldon. So you know how it goes, right? And yeah, it became real to me. So we went on the coastline in South Columbus Bay, and we looked at the sinking coastline and the coastal features, landforms, and different things, the settlement patterns along the way and so on. And it was something that meant more to me because I wasn't just sitting in a class listening to the teacher explain things. Neither was I just sitting reading a book, so it became more, I was more actively involved in the process. All right. So student-centered teaching is really teaching with the learners or instructions that is informed by the needs of the learners, whether it's the learning preferences they may have, their needs, what they need to know, what they know, what they, you know, that kind of thing. And all of that you find out from a learner analysis, as we mentioned earlier. All right. And a learner analysis doesn't have to be only at the beginning of the course. It could be done every other session. Let's say prior to starting a new topic, you might want to know, what do they know? What do they think about a new topic or new module? All right. So it's always where the needs of the learners take precedence. So we have some strategies here: game-based learning, collaborative learning, webquest, problem-based learning, and the others. And these are all strategies that you could easily fold into the online environment, because we have online games that could work in a synchronous and asynchronous context. We have collaborative, all of these could work online, whether it's a synchronous or asynchronous context. And that's why synchronous/asynchronous is in the middle. So what we're going to do, instead of me explaining it to you, I'm going to ask Mr. Garcia to create 4 groups. All right. So we're going to have 4 groups. I tried to do some math, but Mark, you could adjust it to suit. Without, of course, Randy and the 2 of us. You're going to be put into groups, and each group will have one instructional method to find 5 facts about that particular method or strategy. So for example, if you are given cooperative learning, then you have to do a quick search amongst your group, the members of your group, to find 5 facts on cooperative learning. And then you're going to come back to the main room and present what you found, just in about, you could do a PowerPoint slide if you like. That always helps, the visual. And explain what you found, or present it to the rest of the class, what you found, the 5 facts you found about your particular instructional method. Is that clear, or do you need me to explain it again? Any questions? Yes. Feel free to take a screenshot. I'll also post it in the broadcast when we go into the breakout rooms. But you definitely want to keep in mind which group you're in, and the instructional method assigned to your group. So I'll give you about 10 minutes to prepare. All right, 8 to 10 minutes to prepare. Let me just make sure I check right, and that should be good timing. And by the time you come back, you have about 60 seconds or less to present. Usually takes less than 60 seconds. And that's it. So make sure you take a note of the different instructional methods or the instruction, and we'll take it from there. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right, Mr. Garcia, could you put everyone into breakout groups? And remember, group 1 is active learning, group 2 is cooperative learning, group 3 is inductive teaching and learning, and group 4 is experiential learning. All right? Okay.
Justin, Dr. Zafran, could you repeat that? The group names? I just want to renew it one time.
Group 1 is active learning. Group 2 is cooperative learning. Group 3 is inductive teaching and learning. And group 4 is experiential learning.
Thank you.
All right. So we have about 8 minutes to do this, and let's see what we come up with. All right. No, there are no explanations. You have to do a webquest, Avian. Or are you looking for the instructions? It's on the slide here. Is everyone in a group now?
No, not everyone. Some persons are still in the main room. Do recall that you'd have to click on accepting the prompt to join your room.
Set the timer for 8 minutes, right?
Remember everyone, it's group 1 is active learning, group 2 is cooperative learning, group 3, inductive teaching and learning, and group 4, experiential learning. Remember that you're finding 5 facts about the learning instructional method assigned to your group. And then you're going to put together maybe a PowerPoint slide with those four or 5 points to present to the class. All right. All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the session. So you had a very, hopefully an interesting activity. And now we just need to see what you came up with. All right, so group 1, I think group 1, we had Avalon, we had Carol, we had Julia, we had Kerry, or not Kerry, sorry, is that Kerry? I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. Marsha, Sheldon, and so on. So group 1, you had active learning. Yes, Avian, yes, you can see the slide with the explanations. Oh no, that's an old message. Okay, so group 1, I don't know who your person might be, or if you have.
Yeah, hi, Justin. We couldn't share the screen, so we made a poll and we all added some information to the new tool we have just learned. But we couldn't share in the end, and so we couldn't wrap up and think about what we should take out of this poll. But I can present what we have placed in the poll. Okay, so do you want to? So you don't have anything to see per se, right? Or you're just going to talk it, or you want to show something? No, I would share my screen so that if possible. All right, so I just made you co-host, so you can go right ahead. Can you see that my screen, our poll, which is popping up? Okay. So we made a poll and checked what is the Google saying about active learning, and we realized that it is a complex. It's not so much one specific method, but it's more a complex thing, which includes a lot of elements like, there were, for instance, that students actively participate, solve problems, solve complex questions, and you can use different methods to activate them. So examples of that is role-playing, group work, peer teaching, peer review with the classmates. And so it's the opposite of passive learning. So it's not teacher-centered, but learner-centered. So we try to find as much as different definitions and information about it. So timely feedback, making decisions, propose solutions, and solve together in group work, for instance, complex problems. Very good, very good. Anything else on behalf of this group?
All right. Thank you so much, Group 1. I think you did quite that's the first time we got that activity through that presentation through a poll everywhere. Post. So it was quite interesting to see. I like the innovation there. But you are correct. Active learning incorporates all of those things it's highly interactive. It's a lot of time is spent trying to solve problems, etc., etc. And it's the complete opposite of a passive approach. You're absolutely correct. All right, Group 2, cooperative learning. I don't know who's going to present on your side. You could let us know, and Mr. Garcia will make the person.
Okay, Raymond, but I don't mind presenting, but my challenge is I'm using my phone, so I would like to put the image in the chat if it's possible and discuss it.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so let me see if I could get back that image. Hold, please. Right. All right. Right, so I don't know if you all would be able, when it comes up, to kind of put it on the screen so that.
All right.
Like I said, I'm using my phone.
That's no problem, that's no problem. Do you want me to share it, or does anyone?
Yes, please. Yes, please. I'd appreciate if you share.
Well, I think someone is sharing it already. Okay.
All right, wonderful. So cooperative learning involves more than students working together in a lab or field project. It requires teachers to structure cooperative independence among them. So we got 5 elements, and this diagram depicts that. The 5 elements are positive independence, individual accountability, the interaction, the interpersonal skills, and group processing. So when you look at the positive independence, one way to know if the students are succeeding is in the structuring of the positive independence, when students perceive that it is either sink or swimming together. So they recognize that they all have a part to play in ensuring that the task is completed. So it can be achieved through mutual goals, division of labor, divided materials, roles, and by making part of each student's grade dependent on the performance of the rest of the group. When it comes to individual accountability, the essence of individual accountability in cooperative learning is students learn together and perform, but they perform alone. This requires that no one can piggyback on others' work. A lesson's goal must be clear enough that students are able to measure whether A, the group is successful in achieving them, and B, individual members are successful in achieving them as well. When it comes to the interaction, an important cognitive activity and interpersonal dynamic occur only when students promote each other's learning. This includes oral explanation on how to solve problems, discussing the nature of the concepts being learned, and connecting present learning with past knowledge. In the interpersonal social skills, as it were, that they have to learn in cooperative learning groups, students learn academic subject matter like taskwork, and also interpersonal and small group skills they learn. The group must know how to provide effective leadership, decision-making, trust building, communication, conflict management. All these things come into play when they are engaged in this task. And finally, when it comes to group processing, after completing their task, students must be given time and procedures for analyzing how well their learning groups are functioning and how well social skills are being employed.
Excellent, excellent, very good. I'm quite impressed. Very good. I like quite a thorough presentation. Anything else, Group 2, before I chime in, or anyone else wants to chime in? You notice it also addressed the concern earlier that was mentioned about students trying to piggyback on each other and not do any work, that individual responsibility part of it. So cooperative learning is, otherwise known as collaborative learning, is something that you have to, for it to be done extremely well and effectively, there are different components that you have to consider. And I think that graphic does a good job of highlighting the pillars that comprise cooperative learning. Yeah. Students giving feedback or assessing each other's contributions and so on. The interrelated dependence, the codependence that is required for such an activity. And then, they develop not just the knowledge and skills that they need to regarding the particular activity, but they also develop social skills and soft skills and so on, which they need even in the workplace. It doesn't matter what field they're in. Yeah. So thank you so much for that, group 2. Excellent work. I think we have group 3 now with inductive teaching and learning. Group 3, I don't know who your spokesperson might be, or if you have anything to share.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm not sharing, but I'm putting up the PowerPoint.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to share. Candace? Yes.
All right, so let me make you co-host as well. All right, Candace, you're co-host now, so you should see a green button at the bottom of your screen.
That says share, right. So share. Screen.
Oh no, you're sharing. Okay.
Well, I'll present it from my phone.
All right.
So we just came up with some advantages and disadvantages. Marlene, you want to take it away, Michelle? Hello. Okay. All right. I'll try to summarize.
Sorry about that. My mic
right.
is.
Okay, good.
Let me start again. Sorry about that, Candace and other group members. Yes. So with inductive teaching and learning, what you have is the students would be observing. It's based on observation, and then they would develop rules. And this is the grounding of scientific theory. This is how scientific theory has evolved. So look at an example would be Pavlov's dogs. By observing, and then you could come up with a rule as to say the dogs will always salivate once the something has a stimuli there, and so on. We're seeing this as a good thing, but there's a disadvantage where the students, they can formulate the rules incorrectly if they're not given proper guidance. And so you have to have some sort of guidance there for those students. We also realize that this is a very creative method, and you could have students coming up with innovative concepts and ideas. Pretty much look at the Wright brothers. They came up with their airplane, and which has boomed into a industry. So. Right. This is the grounding of scientific theory, and it's a good way for students to learn. Group members, any other thoughts?
Very good, very good. I don't know if that's it. Is that it?
I don't know if the others have anything else to contribute.
Okay.
I think one of the points that we were discussing very briefly, I'm not sure I heard it towards the end because my connection is a little dodgy. But I think one of the interesting points that was being discussed was the fact that you'd have to be really particular and strategic about the type of task that you want to assign or make kind of the basis of this type of teaching and learning, so that they could actually benefit from the discovery-based engagement aspect, but at the same time not kind of buffer the tendency or the inclination for that formulation of the incorrect formulation to occur.
Right.
So I think that was interesting because it, you know, it gives you a lot of flexibility depending on what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Very good. Anything else? All right. Thank you so much, Group 2. Group 3, sorry, I'm sorry. Group 3 for inductive teaching and learning. I think we quite an insightful presentation. I think I can't remember who mentioned it, but I know it was mentioned that this approach is particularly useful for, let's say, if it's a project-based or problem-based approach. I think Julia mentioned earlier in the session that some students lack that the critical thinking skills that they need. And so this is one approach that helps to develop that, even in an online environment. Yeah. So thank you so much for that, Group 3. Colleagues, I'm just looking at the time, and I know we have to leave in just a bit. So I'm just going to ask for just about a couple more minutes for Group 4 to present, and then we'll wrap up shortly thereafter. Is that okay? Yeah. So let's go straight into straight to Group 4 on experiential teaching and learning.
Yes. So yes, then I'll be presenting very short presentation. So I sent the image in the chat. I don't know if you could share it.
Okay.
Because I think it nicely summarizes what experiential learning is about.
Mm-hmm.
Do I wait for you, or?
I think Mr. Garcia should put it up in just a bit. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
No problem.
So basically, we would start off by saying that it is the way in which learners navigate this learning cycle would vary from individual to individual.
Avian, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Is it in the chat? I'm not seeing it.
I did, yeah. Okay, let me put it back.
Mm-hmm.
Might have to scroll up, but I shall put it back now. Boom, boom. It's a PNG. Yeah. So now, okay.
Okay, there it is.
All right, it went up, I think. All right, so basically, so the way in which learners would navigate this cycle would vary from person to person, and you'd have factors like their personality, educational specialization or backgrounds, their professional career, culture, and their own preferences would basically influence how they use the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that it's like 4 main parts. It involves abstract conceptualization, so thinking and planning, and then doing, which would be the active experimentation, and then feeling, which would involve the concrete experience, and then the watching phase, which would be basically reflecting on the entire experience and making observations. So in terms of facts, we kind of highlighted in discussing, we spoke about it, of course, involving concrete experiences for learning. Learners would be engaged and connected. They would be expected to take the initiative to make decisions and be accountable for results. They need to plan ahead in order to minimize mistakes when completing the task or engaging in the experience. And then they use critical thinking to understand and assess situations.
Nice.
Summary, yeah. I'm sorry, the image didn't go up.
Yeah, the image for some reason, I think, has eluded us.
Sorry. Well, it's a nice image.
But that's okay. I think the image is probably the illustrating the cycle. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So that's not a problem. So I think you did a pretty good job that let me see if I can bring it up on, well, bring something of that sort on my slide. So I think
I took Kolb's experiential learning cycle just now.
Yes. So the cycle basically follows, I mean, I don't have the same illustration, but if you look at the bottom of this table, I think that's the process that you were referring to with Kolb's. So yes, you're absolutely correct, group 4. Thank you so much for that. So basically the whole thing about experiential learning is that participants learn by doing, and it's still in the vein of active learning. All of the other approaches, if you notice, are under the umbrella of active learning, because the students have to get up and do, they have to interact, they have to collaborate, they have to, you know, perform, solve a problem, that sort of thing. So it's really hands-on approaches. So thank you so much for that, group 4. And if we stop and reflect very quickly, in that activity we just did, where you were in groups and you went and you did your online research and you came and presented, what are some of the things that stood out to you very quickly? You could use your microphone.
I think for me, Go ahead, Dale.
Okay, what stood out to me is how each member of the group, in a sense, took a slightly different approach to how they looked at the question.
Right.
I looked at it from looking like a model intellect, but people also brought forward their experience in experiential learning.
Right.
Right. So people basically brought out, you know, how in their own sphere of activity, how they engage in experiential learning.
Right.
How they facilitate it. All right. That was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Thank you so much for that, too. Avian said yes, exactly. And Nicholas is agreeing with you. Very good. Because if you look at, the chat kind of skewed for me here. Okay, good. So these are some of the things that we did just now. We used a collaborative approach. We use a webquest or inquiry-based approach, because remember, you had to go and search online to do some research, to find information on a particular thing that we needed to know about. It was interactive because you were able to work with each other, but you also had to present to each other, basically. In terms of the tech side of it, we'd use the Zoom breakout room, the Zoom presenter and share screen features. And in so doing, learning and engagement were maximized. You see how that was done there, right? So it wasn't just about me telling you about the different approaches, because you probably wouldn't remember it. But I'm sure long after this session is concluded, you would remember the approach you worked on with your group, and by extension, what your colleagues also worked on as well. Yeah. So that's one way in which, as simple as it was, the different elements that were satisfied. It was collaborative, it was interactive, it was inquiry-based. You incorporated the different tech tools, and then some of you went a step further where you use poll everywhere, you use share screen on your phones and all these different things, or you found images, you did your Google search and so on. And that's one easy way in which you could get students to be engaged in your presentations. Because remember, they are doing the work. When I say they are doing the work, you are facilitating, you are guiding, but they are the ones doing the actual research. They are the ones doing the actual presentation. And they're the ones doing the collaboration, working with each other to solve a particular problem. So developing critical thinking skills and so on. So in so doing, learning becomes not just more fun for them, but also more engaging, and retention is increased. In terms of the UWI-STA, we have the LMS, and likewise with Canvas, you have different avenues through which you could engage your students, whether it's a discussion forum, as I mentioned before, the quiz, and the glossary activities, and documentation using those things are on those sites. And even in Zoom, we just showed you how to do that. We showed you by doing it. All right, so you have your breakout or tutorial rooms, you could use poll everywhere. annotations. Now, annotations is where you can write on a screen. So for example, if I had, let me see if I can get it here. If I had an image and I want persons to be able to annotate or to label the image, then by all means, you can do that. So you would notice like there's a pen, some of you may see it, a pen or pencil in your ribbon that has the chart and so on and so on. And you can easily use that pen to draw something or to type something. Yeah? Right, some people are doing it already. Right? And you can draw, so Raymond is drawing, Mark is putting a tick. You can also write. All right, so you could do quite a lot, even just in Zoom. All right, so this works particularly really well when you have like a graphic or a process. Let's say, for example, if you're in geography and you want to highlight the different components or parts of the hydrological cycle, then you might put up a picture with, you know, the hydrological cycle, and students may have to label it accordingly. So for example, where's where condensation occurs, where's evaporation, where's infiltration, surface runoff, etc., etc. If it's languages, let's say in the field of linguistics, for example, students may have to, you may have that graphic where, oh, there's a graphic that they used to have, where the emphasis is on certain parts of the mouth for phonetic or phonological sounds. Well, phonological sounds, but where in the mouth it's actually located and why it's labeled as such. Or if it's in the medical sciences, you may have certain parts of the anatomy that you want students to be able to label. All right, you can do all of that, and you can erase all if it's getting overbearing, and you could take away all of you could disable it as well. All right, so once you're so once you're the host or co-host, you can easily disable or enable that feature. All right, so the next thing is, so in addition to annotations, you also have external platforms such as Poll Everywhere, which we looked at, and games. We have a workshop on games and game-based learning, and that is forthcoming, and a host of other things that would teach you how to incorporate these things even in an online environment. All right, in terms of, sorry, let me get rid of this part. The breakout rooms, does everyone know how to use a breakout room in Zoom? Yeah?
No.
No?
I did it before. No, and I'm not too sure.
All right.
I didn't use that before.
Not a problem. So here's how to do it. I'll just show some graphics for you, some illustrations, sorry. So to use a Zoom breakout group, or to set it, you usually would have to go through settings and the actual account, just to make sure, because sometimes the account might be set up where it doesn't allow for breakout groups. All right. If you notice that you're not seeing it when you're the host of a particular host or co-host of a particular room, then you definitely will have to go into the settings and make sure it's there.
Okay.
I'm just showing you where to go. You would normally see it on the left side, the main menu, and you go into settings and in meeting advanced. You have in meeting basic and in meeting advanced. So just something to note if you don't see it when you're hosting a Zoom session. All right.
Right.
Once you've done that, you will see Zoom breakout room, and you just enable it there where it's in the circle here. And you notice you see right there in meeting advanced and then the menu that comes under that. So that's just in the event that you're not seeing it on your normal Zoom home session. Now, once you have it, you would normally see, and you're the host or co-host, you would normally see it at the bottom of the page or bottom of the screen, the Zoom screen, breakout rooms, and it would look like a 4-tile icon. And you would see the label breakout rooms right underneath it. So just as you see participants and chat, you would also, and share screen and so on, you would also see breakout rooms. It's usually on the right side. All right?
Right.
And then thereafter, once you click on breakout groups or breakout rooms, you're gonna see this menu appear where you have to determine the number of groups that you'd like. So for example, this is what Mr. Garcia did. He determined that there were 4 groups. You can assign persons to these groups automatically or manually. I recommend using it automatically because you may not have an assistant or tech support or anybody. You know, if you're doing a session by yourself, I don't think you might be able to manually put specific people in specific groups. So I would recommend using, once you assign a number of participants per room or group, you ask the system to do it automatically. All right. And then you click create rooms. All right. Once you click create rooms, it basically just what you encountered, it would send everybody to the breakout groups, and then you could end it shortly thereafter. All right. Or you could put a time to it. Now you would see all of that in this same menu as well. All right. And that's it. So let me recap that particular process. You would know, once it's set for your account, you would see breakout groups or breakout rooms at the bottom of the page next to the share screen menu and chat menu. All right, because I'm pretty sure you know about the polling. Well, polling, yeah, share screen, chat, record if you need to record, and then the breakout rooms. All right, you normally would see it on the left, on the right side, lower right side. All right, then you determine the settings of the breakout rooms, meaning the number of persons per group or room. So if it's 8, now if you set it to, now the thing is, Zoom will set it according to the number of persons in a particular room. So for example, if you have 10 persons in the room, and you want to say you want to assign 2 participants to the room, it will set it to 5 groups of 2 people. Yeah, or 3 groups of 3 groups with 2 groups having 3 and 1 group having 4. Yeah, so it works, it adjusts to suit. All right. Okay, so go ahead.
No, great, understand.
Right. And of course, we know the benefits of this is really to foster engagement and collaboration and that sort of thing. But it must be done. It helps if you do it ahead of time, if you prepare it ahead of time. Yeah?
Yes.
Any questions on that so far? And I think we did mention the polls. Instead of using it through Zoom, we do it through Poll Everywhere, which might be better.
I have one question. In the breakout rooms, do you have like a whiteboard? Is it possible to Zoom?
Yes.
Yes. In that room?
Yes. So once you set a breakout room, and it all depends on what you do in the what you set it to. All right. Sorry, let me go back here. All right. What you set it to. So if you want, when you go back here, if you want participants to get a whiteboard, if they can share screen, all of that will be determined for the most part in the settings. I prefer to do it ahead of time, so you know exactly. You don't have to go and fight up during the session to try and configure it to suit. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So for example, closed captioning whether it was selected, you would see it in the following graphic. Closed caption is down here. So anything that you set ahead of time that you see here, it's usually because it was in the settings over here. Well, in this case, breakout room and remote support and closed captioning. All right, and it's down there, closed caption, breakout rooms, and that sort of thing. Yeah. So let me just, as we bring the session to a close, very quickly, just give me one sec. I did mention we have other tools for engagement. And so we want to make sure that, oh, okay, good. Just getting some complication there. And so we as we bring it to a close, there are other tools that you can use for engagement, and of course, Pool Everywhere, and a host of other platforms that you can use. But when teaching in the online environment, you want to make sure it's relevant, that it's participatory, that it's interactive, that it's fun, and of course, you want to make it meaningful or memorable. That helps with retention. All of these tips, they help make the teaching and learning process more fulfilling for students. It allows for greater engagement and increases retention, and the literature has shown that. All right. Of course, when you make it fun, make sure they have fun, that it's not painstaking or too onerous for them. Yes, you have challenges in there for them, but not to the point where it takes away the fun. All right. So any other questions? I know we had questions along the way. Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Garcia has placed a link in the chat for the evaluation, all right, for this session. I'm really hopeful that it was beneficial to you. It was insightful. It was hopefully eye-opening. And that the more important thing is really to take some of the things that you learned today and apply them to your teaching or instructional context. All right, whether it's a teaching tool, whether it's an instructional strategy, or the like, by all means, you can, that's where the moment of truth comes. If you need any sort of assistance, by all means, you can contact us, or you can contact me, and we will be happy to help. If you need any tips, if you need any advice, if you need any assistance in navigating through a particular issue regarding to teaching and learning in the online environment, by all means, feel free to contact us. Remember, teaching in the online environment, you want to make it collaborative, you want to make it accessible, you want to be creative, think outside the box, make it practical. So it's not just you talking and students looking at a screen and vice versa. So have fun with it. Remember, whatever you do, you want to make sure you plan it out, right? Everything in teaching and learning is planned, even the unexpected, so you don't get flustered with certain things, all right? So test it out, try it out, plan it out, and have fun with it, all right? Thank you so much, everyone, for attending and participating in this particular session. And we look forward to having you in our next session. And I also want to acknowledge and thank Mr. Garcia and Mr. Duku for their support as well. All right. Have a good evening, everyone.